leadership nuggets with him, and I'm like, happy man. And he looks at me, no, 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 not Dr. Manda, but happy Monday. And yesterday was Father's Day. Today is Youth Day. So happy Youth Day. But we're going to take a step back a little bit and say, happy belated Father's Day, Dr. Manda.
Oh, thank you so much.
How,
Just the
how are you
attention from
doing
yesterday was
today?
amazing. I'm doing well and doing my best to rest. Like you're saying that many of us are supposed to be resting.
Yeah, but we're not resting because, hey, here we are in studio. There's no escape. There is no escape, unfortunately. You got yourself in an industry that has no rest.
I see. I'm learning very slowly, but we love what we do, so this doesn't feel like
Yeah,
work.
exactly. I love to hear that. Otherwise, how was your Father's Day?
It was amazing. I got a beautiful gift, which was a small voucher called, and in that voucher it was a 2 hour nap. So I got given a voucher
Aha!
to
I
just
saw that.
nap,
So,
to
so
just
did,
to just
did you
take.
utilize a voucher though?
I did. But the same people that gave me the voucher, the kids, yeah, they kept knocking every now and again before the end of the 2 hours. And I'm like, okay,
Ah,
I'm on my 2 hour zone. Please, please, please. Um,
I like that. I like the idea, by the way. I feel like
yeah,
I'm going to steal it.
yeah, because like weekends, that's when this one needs to be taken to tennis, this one is to go there, this one is that. So
Uh-huh.
most of the weekend, usually, you sort of are saving them if it were. This time around, I got a block of time to rest.
I love that one. I must say, honestly, I'm going to steal it. Like I said, I always wondered to myself how parents cope, and I don't want to lie to you. When I think about it, it actually gives me anxiety to think my kids are growing, and one of these days I might just need to be that mom that runs around like headless chicken on weekends. Just
Yes.
yesterday, actually, I even thought to myself, maybe it'll be a great idea to actually take them to hostel once all these activities get hectic and I only see them on weekends. Weekend, what do they call it? Week borders. I make them week borders, and I only see them on weekends.
Yeah, but it's such a
Must be
joy to
fun.
also save them and go watch
Mm.
their sports and go do whatever they want to do. But after a very long week, sometimes just that beautiful afternoon nap after church, it's
It's
just priceless.
needed.
Oh, that's
I
just
can
better,
imagine.
better.
Dr. Mata, let's get right into it. Let's have our quick chat. It is a shorter day, I understand. So let's keep it short. Now, if you don't know who he is, Dr. Manda is the founding director of Super Lead Advisory, and he specializes in strategy, in operations, and leadership development. He's a strategist, a leadership coach, like I said, and an author of Lead with Super Clarity, a globally recognized facilitator, and he has moderated high profile events. Welcome back, Dr. Manda. Now, let's get it started. Now, since we last sat together, that was when? Last week, actually.
Yeah, of course.
I've
We don't, we are consistent now.
yeah, I've been reflecting on just how much ground we've covered in this series on building teams that thrive. From the foundational area, or rather idea of psychological safety to dependability, then structure and clarity, and most recently, we touched on the meaning of work. It's been like building a house, one layer at a time. So before we dive into today's conversation, then can you please just zoom out and take it all in? What has this journey revealed so far, and how does this next theme, which is cultivating impact, build on the pillars that we've already explored?
Oh, lovely, lovely. You ask these like big, loaded questions, and then it's like you're
My English
upgrading me.
improves.
Yeah, you're upgrading me, and I'm forced to actually step up and answer at the same level. So, and it's
Yeah.
such a beautiful way to frame it because thriving teams are really built. They're not
Mhm.
necessarily sort of they don't just happen by themselves. Many of us sometimes inherit teams. You get promoted, and all of a sudden, this is your team, or there's a restructure, and then there's a team that you're now responsible for. But to
Yep.
make that a thriving team, there is work to be done. And I think this idea that of like a house, I think it's a beautiful one. And over
Mm.
the past sessions, we have built slowly in constructing the foundation. We began with psychological safety, which is all about creating an environment within your team where people feel safe to speak up, to make
Yep.
mistakes, and be themselves without kind of fear that they'll be shut down, they'll be punished, or they'll be ridiculed, or worse things could happen. So let me just sort of pause on this one before we go to the next one, and sort of reflect on how in the past couple of months, when I sort of engage with teams and organizations on just this idea of psychological safety, you can feel how much people are yearning for that, and yet it feels like
Yeah.
is the thing that is so absent in our organizations, even in big organizations that you admire from afar. But when you start to engage with the teams, and then you kind of just talk a bit about psychological safety, the way they lean in, the way they kind of
Mm.
just yearn for that, it's incredible how and this is anecdotally, but how very few teams might actually have this in their environments.
Mm.
So that was the first one. The second one, we then moved to dependability, and this is the quiet power of being able to count on each other. We said that teams
Mm.
don't thrive just on talent alone, but they thrive when people can take ownership of their work and they can follow through. And then there's this sense that I can depend on my teammate. The third layer we
Yeah.
spoke about was structure and clarity. And that's where we talked about the importance of having clear goals, roles, and shared understanding of the work that we're doing. Research and our own research at Superlead has shown that clarity is one of the strongest predictors of performance. And in our
True.
last episode, which was last week, we turned somewhat inward into the individuals, and we spoke about the meaning of work. Talking about having team members getting that sense that they know why they show up. And we
Mm.
discovered that meaning isn't just luxury, it's essential. It grows when people feel like they are contributing to something bigger than themselves. And that leaders' roles here is to be meaning makers. And I
Yeah.
remember reflecting on the fact that not every task can be glamorous, but every task can have dignity and can be attached to
Mm.
meaning. So those are the sort of the four building blocks that we have walked the journey on. And if you're wondering why those four, we took the Project Aristotle study, which was done at Google. Google wanted to figure out what makes great teams at Google,
Mm.
and we sort of used the five elements that they spoke about, which then leads me to introduce our fifth and final one, which is what we will discuss in this show today. And in this episode, we shift to why we work, to
Mhm.
who helps. Last week it was about why we do the work, and now this week we are talking about to who the work helps. We move from the inner clarity to outward impact, because meaning is powerful, but impact makes it visible. And
Oh.
in this next pillar, really the ask is: does your team know the difference their work makes? Do they see
Mm.
the lives that are touched by the work that you do in your
Sure.
organization?
Very interesting. Actually, that's a very interesting question, I must say. And then I think as you asking it, actually, I'm like, imagine if we understood that. I think that's what you're about to unpack for us actually right now. Now, you've
Absolutely.
touched on something really powerful, Dr. Manda, there. The idea that when people see the difference they make, everything else changes. And I'd love for us to, go a bit deeper on that. What exactly is, task significance? And why has it proven to be such a reliable lever for improving performance and motivation?
Absolutely, absolutely. For today's conversation, as you know, we reference the work that we do and the research, and we also pull in a beautiful piece of work that's done by others. And today we are largely going to unpack the work done by a phenomenal researcher, Adam Grant. And his research has shown that even the smallest glimpse of impact,
Mhm.
when you do the work and then you just have a visibility on the person that work has touched, even at the smallest level, that tends to dramatically like improve
That's
motivation,
so
performance.
true.
Like we're having this show, if you
Mhm.
get just the small glimpse of a story of someone that listened to your show and they were
Yep.
about to go this path and then they went this path and this is the ultimate impact, that absolutely elevates performance. So now, to answer your question directly, so task significance is one of those concepts. They sound simple but they yet very, very, very profound. It's the belief that the
Mm,
work that you have done has made a positive impact on someone else. Um,
mm,
and today, the bigger question is who that someone is, and sort of hearing the stories that emanates from the task that one has done. It's what Adam Grant's research shows, that belief, after kind of hearing the story, the sense that what I do matters to others
mm.
absolutely changes the game, especially from a motivation perspective. In one of his well-known studies, he worked with university fundraising callers. So these are the students whose job is to make phone calls to sort of potential funders asking for donation for the university. And you can imagine this is more sort of like a call center. You're getting another number, you're dialing, either you're getting a no, you're getting not yet, you're getting all sorts
Yeah.
um, of answers. Some of us who have kind of been in the call center environment know how that might feel. And then the one day, one of the callers got to be told of the story of the student whose life was impacted by the donation that they've helped raise. And
Wow.
that just hearing the impact that the work has done to someone else significantly
Yeah.
improved the performance. So all everything else still the same, everything
Yeah,
is
and
still
pretty
hard.
much what makes you push as the caller to say, "Hey, no matter how many no's I get, tomorrow's and your call is annoying, but you know that you could get that one donor whose fund could, save one child's life."
Yes. And it's more about once that story is revealed. So today, one of
Mm.
the things we're going to talk about just now is that the impact of the work that the people you lead is already there. We are not trying
Oh.
to create fake enthusiasm or fake motivation. All we are
Mm.
asking from leaders is help surface that impact. And there's some
Yeah.
specific strategies we're going to talk about just now. So the impact of your work, Luco, and the show that you do, is there already. And the ask
Mm.
is, can we surface it? When we do, the impact on motivation, on just engagement with the work and the
Yeah.
performance and how we want to make it better, it's just unparalleled. And leaders here have a role to bring and surface that impact that's already being done.
I feel like this is also one of my most favorite aspects of this subject. I promise you, working on radio, Dr. Manda, and I usually used to say this in my early days, to say oftentimes the family or the listeners don't respond as often as they should. And sometimes you think it's about you.
Mm.
Sometimes you think, I'm not too sure how much impact I'm having. I'm not even sure if anyone is listening to me right now or if they enjoy listening. And then one day you'll be walking into a store. I remember this one time, and I
Yeah.
can't remember what I said to this lady. She turned around, even at the gym the one time, another
Yeah.
lady turned around, looked at me, and she said, "Do you work on radio?" And I stopped for a second. I was like, "Why do you ask?"
Yeah,
And she said, "No, I just recognize your voice."
sure.
I said, "Oh, you do?" And she guessed right. Like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, you definitely know me." We laughed about it, and she started telling me, stories and things that we discuss, with
sure.
some contributors on the programs, how it's helped her, and in that moment, I thought, the silence does not necessarily mean nobody's life has changed. And it's in those moments that you go back the next day to studio and you're like, even if I'm alone right now and the lines are quiet, if I can just touch one life.
Yes.
If my sitting here, even if it's not just my word, but whoever I get about Dr. Mana that I get to engage with, if one person's life can be changed, it's literally worth the 2 hours of me sitting on this chair.
Absolutely. And just that encounter at gym and at the grocery store, it just that change
Mm.
in outlook, and
Yep, yep.
it's priceless. You know, there's
Mm.
not amount of salary increase that can buy that sense of motivation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
Definitely.
in the Google research, they found that just this ability for managers, for leaders to create the grocery store, more of those grocery store conversations, where
Mm.
in this case maybe people also come to the station, or there's more and more opportunities for people to share
Yeah.
the stories of the impact that that you're doing on radio. And that's all we're
Wow.
asking for today. Just surfacing,
Mm.
making more grocery engagement, making more gym encounters, and letting those
Yeah.
stories flow. If you can do that, just the magic in the team, the
Yeah.
motivation on the individuals. I must say, I think I also like this one a lot more.
Nah, I think
Hmm,
generally, I don't know if you remember, there was a song in one of Pastor Benjamin Dube's albums, but there's a line he says, "A little thank you opens room for more." And
sure,
I think it's in those thank yous and those appreciations that people get in their line of work, that
sure,
they are encouraged to do more, to
sure,
stretch a bit further. I was
sure.
talking to a friend not so long ago who overworks herself for her company so
Yeah,
much because she understands things need to be done. And
sure,
and, and I said to her, sadly, people don't always remember to say thank you to you.
sure.
But the truth is you steer the ship.
Sure. And in our conversation today, we wanna take it a step further. So if you do some work for me, we wanna take it a step further and say you can say thank you, and then if
Mhm.
it's at all possible to find a story to say thank you, Luko. Let me add, because you helped me structure that document that way.
Yeah,
This and that happened, and this was the impact on that other person.
on your
So
work, exactly.
yes, yes. So we go, thank you, because sometimes people might get used to the, okay, thank you, thank
Thanks.
you, thank you, thank you. But
Yeah.
yes, if it's more powerful when we connect it to how that work contributed more
Mm.
so to the individual somewhere down the road.
I feel like it also has everything to do with understanding the weight of your service to other people as well.
Absolutely.
True, true.
I think you
Sure.
must finish the rest of this.
Really, Dr. Amanda. So once we understand that the task significance really matters, Dr. Amanda, the next leadership question becomes, what do we do when people lose sight of it? Because even in, great teams, we know that people can start to feel disconnected from the difference that they're making. So what does this disconnection tend to look like? And what can leaders actually do to restore that sense of impact?
Once people lose that sight of their impact, you often see it in small signals. You see it largely less energy, less
Mm.
initiative, and just kind of just doing the bare minimum for someone to earn their salary and sort of go home.
Mm.
They might not necessarily say my work doesn't matter. They might not
Yeah.
say it, but they feel it, and because they
Mm.
feel it, they tend to act it out.
Sure.
So at any slight kind of slight problem, instead of kind of problem solving this thing together and say, okay, yeah, there's a bit of an obstacle, but we're gonna find a way. It's gonna be like,
Mm.
yeah, it's raining, so we can't have that outreach that we are planning in any case. It's
Yeah.
when those types of kind of reactive, less initiative, less resolve to solve through some of the difficult obstacles, there's a good chance that there is a distance between the work and the impact. And the job for the
That's
leader
so
in this case
true.
is to close the gap, is to bring
Mm.
stories of impact back to the people that work with you. So Adam Grant's research shows that people are most motivated when they can see and feel their work benefit others. When the connection is missing, maybe because that feedback loop is broken, or the work sometimes feels repetitive, people don't necessarily stop working, but they just stop believing in the value of the work. And
Sure.
our role here is to build that faith, to reignite
Mm.
that faith, and not necessarily by big bonuses or by big increases, but literally by connecting the stories of impact back to
Mm.
the work that's being done. I've seen this happen in businesses, and sometimes in churches. A volunteer might faithfully run the media desk, for instance, every Sunday. And then no one necessarily says, hey, because of your work, someone had the message and they were saved, etc., etc. So they might just see their role as just making sure the speakers are connected. But the role of
Mm.
leadership here is to sort of link, because you wake up so early, 7 a.m. before everyone else, you come prepared, the
Sure.
sound is the quality is good, this and that and that. There was a boy that was saved yesterday who ordinarily, these Gen Zs, if the
Wow.
music and things are not well and all of that stuff is not going well, they can easily get distracted, or they might want to
True.
stop coming to church. But because you, my media desk person, volunteer, did this excellent work, look at the life of that person and hear the story of testimony for that person, connecting directly. I think it's also
Mm.
not enough to just have broad testimony that, hey, there are 17 people that are saved and look at how wonderful the work is. It's more about, because this team, you, Luko, you ran a show consistently,
Mm.
you did this.
Mm.
This is the story. This is the impact. So that's the job
Wow.
for leaders.
I love to hear it. And here's another one, Dr. Mann. For a leader who's listening and thinking, yes, I want to make sure that my team feels the impact. What are some habits or tools or even small practices, they can practically start building into their week to do this in a sustainable way?
Excellent, and we're not asking for much here. This is where the idea of cultivating impacts becomes more practical. And
Mm.
you don't need to launch a big program and say, now we are doing cultivating impact program. What you need is just some intentional rhythm. Here are some three
Yeah.
practical ones that we can recommend just for today. Just three practical ones. So number one, stories over statistics. So let's say that again.
Mm.
Stories over
Stories and the
statistics.
statistics.
Yeah. So make
Don't you
space.
want to go to preschool?
Sorry.
Don't you want to go teach in preschool? They love repeating what you say. You know how children love repeating. I watch my twins. I'm like, you can stop now.
So stories are more weighty than statistics. Make space
Mm.
regularly, whether in meetings or emails or one-on-ones, to share the real stories of how the team's work helped someone.
Wow.
It's great to say, hey. Look at the church attendance numbers have gone by 14%. The
Mm.
sales have increased by 94%. The customer SLAs have improved by X, this and that and that. I think there's a place for that. But if we want
Yeah.
to do this work of cultivating impact, is we want to bring more stories. Adam Grant's
Mm.
lifeguard study kind of revealed, like, just reading a few, the lifeguards, they do all the most difficult work, but by them reading a few rescue stories was enough to help lift performance. Yes, you can kind of
Wow.
say as a manager, guys, this year we rescued 28 people, da, 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 da. But the key is to bring in the story. This person was
Mhm.
here. They came with their family. This is the impact that happened, etc., etc. Posted. So number
Mm.
one is stories over statistics. Number two, connect people to beneficiaries. And I know not every
No,
role
the
is able
internet
to
is not
do
doing
that.
that to us.
Sorry?
Dr. Manda. Okay, I'll get this sorted out. Don't worry, I always do. Always. Okay, okay. Dr.
Let's
Manda?
try.
I think he's
Are we
back.
okay? We're back.
Dr. Manda.
I think I'm here. I might be disconnected. I'm here. So, Luco, it turns out I am still live. Maybe I can just finish these points, and you can join in. So the first one we said stories over statistics. The second one we said connecting people to beneficiaries. So where possible, creating moments of contact between your team and the people that they ultimately serve. For instance, let a client or church member share feedback directly with the team. Even a short video or read aloud message can breathe life into someone's daily routine. And the more ways we can find, especially taking advantage of digital tools, the more of these connections we can find, the more stories of impact can be shared with the team. Then the third element is practice impact layered recognition. And by that, we mean when you unfirm someone, going beyond thank you for the work, but adding a little bit more, as we said earlier, to say, because of what you did, this is what ultimately happened to someone else. For instance, because you handled the call with such patience and grace, that person left feeling seen and respected. And all it does, it just takes a few more seconds or sometimes a minute to just add that little impact layered sentence on the thank yous for the work that's has been done. Let me just check if Luco is still with me. It turns out Luco is still live. So as I mentioned earlier, the goal is not to create fake enthusiasm, but is to surface what already exists, what is already true. The work that your team does today has positive impact in the lives of others, and the ask here is for a way and the ask here is uh, for the leaders to help surface that significance of the task that's being carried on by the team. Maybe we pause here until we reconnect back with Luco. So, apologies for the connectivity challenges. Perhaps let me wrap it up and just kind of repeating some of the key messages that we intend for you to take away from our conversation with Luca today. And then notice this: impact often exists. It just needs to be revealed. Most of the time, the work our teams are doing already matters deeply, but the people that are doing this work might be distant from the impact. They might not get to see or feel how they are helping others. And that gap can quietly reduce motivation. What Adam Grant's research shows is that when people are given just that glimpse of how their work helps others, it's often how it changes how they show up. And the key drivers are these two, in that they're relational, in that sense that my actions help other people, and that's social impact, and my contributions are valued, and that's social worth. So if I had to sort of offer just one holistic message here, is to say that leaders are impact translators. You as leaders, we help people make the connection between what they do and how it blesses others. And for us to just sort of bring it all together, I would like to invite everyone today, all our leaders, to ask this one simple question as we go back to work tomorrow morning. And then the question is, who is better off because of the work we do? And once we find that name, we can then find a way to bring that person closer to our team and let the stories of impact be shared. And with that, we can conclude it here. If you would like to get in touch with us, you can reach us on our WhatsApp number, which is 078 020 0051. Or you can write to me, Manda, at mandat@superlead.co.za. Until then, go out there and super lead.